I wanted to do a video about my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Cotton Mathers. Cotton was a preacher in the 1600s in Salem, Massachusetts, and had a lot to do with the Salem witch trials. Now, this guy's reputation went down the tubes quite a bit because of his involvement with the Salem witch trials. If you don't know what the Salem witch trials were, in the 1600s, they hung 19 women in one day for supposedly being witches. What happened, allegedly, mainstream media information, what they tell us is that in the 1600s, Salem, Mass was a pretty small town. We will say that everyone knew each other pretty well. So there were two families in Salem, Mass at the time that were very prominent, wealthy families that controlled a lot of the businesses in the town. Now, we're told that these two families had a falling out, and because of their popularity, it divided the town in half. So now the town is split up because these two families are fighting. But not only that, a new preacher allegedly came to town, and not a lot of people in town were super happy about this. A lot of people wanted the old preacher, some people wanted the new preacher. Now, during this town split, there were two girls that were supposedly acting all demonic and being weird. Now, the town was freaking out, wondering, why are these girls acting demonic? What's going on here? So they started questioning all of the women in town to see who bewitched the girls. Now, apparently the girls started pointing their fingers at one or two women in the town, and they decided to accuse these women of being witches. Now, this is where my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather comes in, because Cotton, being the preacher in the town, he had a lot of power back then, and he could have prevented this hanging from happening, especially because he may have known that it was all foolish nonsense. Now, what I believe, by gathering information over the last couple of years on this, is that these women were not witches. What actually happened was that these women were widowed, and their husbands had gigantic estates back then. Now, these estates were being looked at as being empty estates. Where is the man that owns the estate? Well, he's dead. Who owns it now? These women. So there were all these women with these giant estates, and the wealthier people in town that wanted more control did not like this at all. So how can they control these women's estates? They can label the women witches and then take over their property. That is what I believe they did. Now, my second belief on this is that this whole story never happened at all, and it's just a story. Why do I believe that? Because history, when you do a deeper dive into it, it makes no sense. The stories are ridiculous. You get these stories when you're in school, and they teach you the surface level of the story. But that's because there is no more to the story. The stories are ridiculous when you dig in. Even with the Boston Tea Party, they teach you that we revolted and we dumped the tea in the harbor. But that's not the story at all, and it's ridiculous. It's a BS lie. We'll dive into that story on a later day. But I wanted to talk about the Salem witches because it's an interesting story. There's been so many movies and so many shows about it. And like I said, Cotton Mathers is supposedly based on a deep report that my sister did with our ancestry. He's our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. So I wanted to do this video to introduce Cotton Mathers, the Salem witches, and tell you a little bit about my crazy family. Remember, this is for your entertainment.